Hi everybody, it's Jenny, and today I'm excited to share a set of super cute mini shaker cards using some of the newest goodies from the Spring Baby release from Possum Stamps. And for my cards today, I'm going to be using the super cute Marvelous Perfume stamp set, and I'm going to be using a few of these images as well as the sentiments, and then I'm also going to be using the Sweethearts stencil. And I'm going to go ahead and get started by stamping out 3 of the different perfume bottles onto some 80-pound Neenah cardstock. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and secure the cardstock to my craft mat and start coloring everything in with some Copic markers. I'm also going to go in and add some white highlights with the gel pen. And once all my coloring is complete, I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut everything out. Now that my images are complete, I'm going to go ahead and set those aside and start working on the backgrounds. And I brought in some scrap cardstock in light blue, purple, and pink. And I'm going to use the Sweetheart stencil and some Distress Oxides to go ahead and add that heart pattern across it. Starting with the blue cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and use some peacock feathers. For the purple, I'm going to use some wilted violet. And for the pink, I'm going to use some worn lipstick. Once my inking is all done, I'm going to add some black and white splatter using some watered down acrylic paints, and I'm just going to go ahead and add that to an acrylic block and use a small paintbrush to splatter that across my panels. Next up, I'm going to bring back in my images and see how they look against each of the panels. And I decided to flip-flop the colors so that the images really pop against the backgrounds. And here is the beginning of my shaker assembly. I'm going to use these resealable cellophane pouches. And I'm going to cut down my background so they fit inside. And so I'm going to cut those down to 3 by 4 inches. Once I have my panels trimmed down, I'm going to go ahead and add them to the pouches. Now I can start mixing up some sequin mixes to go inside the shakers. I'm going to be using the new Baby Girl sequin mix as well as the Orchid mix. I'm also going to be adding some seed beads to each of the mixes. Possum Stamps has some really pretty blue sequin mixes, but for this one I'm going to create my own using some sequins from my stash. So I'm just going to bring in a few different blue sequins and go ahead and mix those in. So at first I was going to match the sequin mix to my image, but I decided to switch that around and go ahead and match those with my background. So I'm going to add the purple to the purple, the blue to the blue, pink to the pink. And once all my sequins are added, I'm going to go ahead and seal up each of the pouches. Next up, I trimmed down 3 mini slimline card bases, which end up being 6 by 7 inches, so that when folded in half, they're a 3.5 by 6 inch card base. Next up, I'm playing around with my sentiments to see which I want to go on each card, and I decided to bring in 3 separate dies to kind of give a little more flair to each of the sentiments. So I added a piece of cardstock to my Misty, and I laid out the dies to play around with the sizing to see which sentiment fits best, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp each of those out. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim each of those out with the coordinating die. Once all my pieces are complete, I'm going to start playing around with the layout of each of my cards. First, I thought to just add the sentiment below the shaker, but I wasn't really liking how that was looking. And then I started overlapping it with the shaker and wasn't really digging that either. And then I finally layered each piece onto the shaker, and I really like how that looked. So instead of keeping the mini slimline card size, I decided to go ahead and trim those down. And initially I was going to trim them down to 4.5 inches. But I ended up trimming it down to 4 3/8. And I thought that gave each of the shakers a nice border, so I went ahead and added all my pieces back onto the card front and glued everything down. And here is a closer look at my 3 extra mini slimline shaker cards. I think this is a really quick and easy way to add a shaker element to a card, and they're also really cute. You just have to be a little careful not to overstuff them like I did with the pink shaker. I added a little too many sequins, and so they kind of get stuck because there's no foam to create space for them to shake, but it's still super cute. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!